right, greetings everybody and welcome. I'd like to thank you for your flexibility in moving location and getting over here in time. Hey, that light is directly, he's not going to be able to see. That light is directly in his eyes, he's not going to be able to see. Can we turn it a little bit? Okay, much better, thank you. I'd like to introduce Lieutenant General Mark A. Milley, Commander of 3rd Corps and Fort Hood. Yes, sir, thank you. And Mr. Chris Gray, the spokesman for U.S. Army Criminal Investigation Division. All right, sir.
I want to thank you all for your flexibility in changing locations. We were all having a difficult time hearing yesterday with some of the traffic and the wind, and I appreciate your flexibility. I'd like to give you a short update on the incident and the investigation that happened last Wednesday, and then at the end allow again your opportunity to ask a few questions. Had an opportunity this morning to visit some of the wounded again, and I just want all of you and all of the community to know that we all are keeping them in our thoughts and prayers, both the fallen and the wounded and their families as they go through this grieving process and this difficult time, and that Fort Hood and all of our leadership will be there with them throughout. We have completed next of kin notification on the 3 fallen soldiers, and I can now confirm publicly their identities. 2 of the soldiers from the 49th Transportation Battalion, and 1 of the killed victims is from the 1st Medical Brigade. Sergeant First Class Daniel Michael Ferguson, age 39, from Mulberry, Florida, entered active service in July 1993 as a Transportation Management Coordinator. He was assigned to the 49th Transportation Battalion of the 4th Sustainment Brigade of the 13th Sustainment Command, and he was a transportation supervisor. His deployments include Kuwait, Iraq, and Afghanistan. Staff Sergeant Carlos Lazini Rodriguez, 38, from Aguadilla, Puerto Rico, entered active duty service in February 1995 as a unit supply specialist. He was assigned to the 21st Combat Support Hospital of the 1st Medical Brigade in February 2012, where he served as a unit supply sergeant. He deployed to Kuwait and also to Iraq. Sergeant Timothy Wayne Owens, 37, of Effingham, Illinois, entered active duty service in July 2004 as a motor transport operator. He was assigned to the 49th Transportation Battalion, 4th Sustainment Brigade, 13th Sustainment Command, where he served as a heavy vehicle driver. He deployed to Iraq and to Kuwait. Their releasable service records will be available to you at the FortHoodPressCenter.com later on this evening. We will memorialize all 3 of these fallen soldiers next Wednesday, and our Public Affairs Office will publish the details in the coming days that will be available to all of you. Also available later this evening, we are putting together a mapper for you, a simple map and diagram of the incident site to include a basic sequence of events as we understand them now. They will be very basic, not to the level of detail of an investigation that is still ongoing, but very basic to help you orient on where this event occurred. In regards to the injured soldiers that we visited this morning, I've had the opportunity both yesterday and today to visit all of the injured soldiers at Darnell and Scott and White, and currently we still have 3 remaining soldiers at Scott and White and 3 at Darnell here on Fort Hood. They're all strong. Each of them is resilient. Their families are resilient, and I had an opportunity to meet with some of their families, and they're dealing very well with a difficult situation, and we all look forward and pray for their full recovery. 10 soldiers of the original 16 have now been released from hospital and are returned to duty. And I, as a commander, as a soldier, am incredibly impressed by the medical professionals at both Scott and White, Darnell, and the entire response of the Fort Hood emergency responders and the community at large. As you know, there's a lot more details beyond what I've given you in the last couple of days, and there's much of those details are not releasable to the public at this time because we do have an ongoing investigation. However, I do want to clarify 2 points specific to Specialist Lopez's medical condition. First, we are digging into his combat experience in Iraq, and so far we have not discovered any specific traumatic event, wounds received in action, contact with the enemy, or anything else specific that he may have been exposed to while deployed. But we are continuing to examine this line of inquiry. Secondly, his underlying medical conditions we do not believe are the direct precipitating factor to the incident. His underlying medical conditions are not a direct precipitating factor. We believe that the immediate precipitating factor was more likely an escalating argument in his unit area. But we are still conducting that detailed investigation, and we will address every single one of the causal and contributing factors that resulted in this horrible tragedy. As you know, the investigation team here is robust and it's multi-agency. Right now we have almost 80 FBI agents working with us and forensic specialists. Over 20 Texas Rangers are contributing to the investigation, and almost 50 U.S. Army CID agents, and of course our Fort Hood MPI, military police investigation teams, and our local law enforcement detectives from Killeen and Harker Heights. Additionally, we have specialists in medical investigations on hand to assist. And altogether, we have over 150 professionally trained investigators from federal, state, and local agencies. I will leave all the further details of ongoing medical and criminal investigations to the law enforcement agencies and healthcare professionals. And at this point, I would like to introduce Colonel Mike Delata. He's the commander of the 6th Military Police Group, CID, who is based at Joint Base Lewis McChord up at Washington State, and also Mr. Chris Gray from CID, and they will briefly now review the status of the investigation. After their comments, we will entertain questions. Chris?
Thank you, General. Good afternoon. My name is Chris Gray. I am the spokesperson for the U.S. Army Criminal Investigation Command based out of Quantico, Virginia, and the multi-agency law enforcement task force led by Army CID here at Fort Hood into the tragic shootings of the incident that took place on Wednesday. I'm here today to provide you with an update, with an investigative update on regard to the ongoing criminal investigation. Unfortunately, and as you know, we lost 4 soldiers on Wednesday, to include the shooter was one of those soldiers. That number includes 16 others who were wounded. On behalf of all law enforcement working this case, both civilian and military, let me begin by expressing my sincerest condolences to the loved ones, the families, the soldiers, and the friends of the wounded and killed during this tragic incident. I will be providing as much releasable information as possible today, but please keep in mind this is an ongoing criminal investigation, and we are only releasing facts at this point that we feel confident will not jeopardize the ongoing case. As you know, the Fort Hood Directorate of Emergency Services, the military police, Army CID, and a host of other law enforcement professionals began responding to reports shots fired at approximately 4:16 p.m. on Wednesday. Numerous reports of gunfire and wounded personnel were received, and it continued at various locations, which contributed to the chaos and confusion associated with the initial reports. The alleged shooter, Specialist Ivan Lopez, initially opened fire with a Smith & Wesson .45 caliber semi-automatic handgun near the intersection of 72nd Street and Tank Destroyer Boulevard. The entire crime scene encompasses almost a 2-city block area. We do have credible information he was involved in a verbal altercation with soldiers from his unit just prior to him allegedly opening fire. The subject then proceeded to travel to 2 other nearby buildings, entering those locations and opening fire. In transit to those locations, while in his personal vehicle, he indiscriminately fired at other soldiers while moving from one location to another. At this time, we are still gathering evidence and processing a very large crime scene, so we will not be giving you a step-by-step timeline of the activity for the investigation. The alleged shooter then encountered a responding military police officer and approached her. Subsequently, there was a verbal exchange between the two. The military police officer drew her assigned firearm and fired 1 round when the subject brandished his weapon. We do not believe the subject was struck, but we are currently confirming that fact with the Armed Forces Medical Examiner. Based on witness statements and other testimonial evidence to date, the alleged shooter then placed his firearm to his own head and fired 1 round, killing himself. Those actions by the alleged subject and the military police officer are obviously part of the ongoing investigation. At this time, we have the 1 alleged subject connected to these shootings, and all evidence at this point in the investigation indicates that the subject acted alone in the actual shootings. We have no evidence thus far that contradicts that finding, but it is critical to point out that we are not ruling anything in or out at this early stage of the investigation, and we will continue to aggressively pursue any and all credible leads and information associated with this case. There were initial reports that there were possibly 2 shooters involved on Wednesday, but that has been attributed to the chaotic nature of the situation and the alleged shooter's movement from location to location, as I described earlier. Additionally, we have not found any links to terrorism or any international or domestic or extremist groups at this time. But again, we have not completely ruled that out in order to conduct a complete and thorough investigation. Within the large crime scene I described, there are 3 significant crime scenes inside buildings and 3 areas outdoors that we are focusing our case on. Those scenes are currently being processed by highly trained CID special agents, Texas Rangers, and members of the FBI's elite evidence response team. That processing includes evidence collection, crime scene recreation, triangulation of evidence, studying the flight of the bullets fired, and 3D scanning of the crime scene. To date, we have canvassed and interviewed more than 900 people during the course of this investigation. Immediately following the shootings, CID, along with the assistance from the military police and outside agencies, took positive control and screened more than 1,000 potential witnesses and possible suspects in the immediate vicinity before releasing them back to their unit. At this point in the investigation, we have well over 150 special agents from Army CID, FBI, and the ATF, as the General mentioned, as well as the Texas Rangers. The weapon allegedly used in the commission of these crimes has been recovered as evidence, and we will be processing that at the Defense Forensic Science Center's U.S. Army Criminal Investigation Laboratory in Atlanta, Georgia. We will conduct firearms forensics and ballistics testing to confirm the shots fired during these crimes came from that specific weapon. We have also confirmed through our investigation that Specialist Lopez purchased the firearm recovered at the crime scene on March 1st from a local establishment outside of Fort Hood, but brought it onto Fort Hood in violation of DOD, Army, and Fort Hood regulations. We have not uncovered any history of criminal convictions or previous criminal activity by Specialist Lopez. At this time, we have not established a concrete motive, but we will do everything in our power to do so. Given that the alleged shooter is deceased, the possibility does exist that we may never know exactly why the alleged shooter did what he did. But again, we are bringing the very latest technology and investigative methods to bear to attempt to find out. Finally, since Wednesday's incident, we have received tremendous support from the fellow law enforcement professionals and the greater Fort Hood community, both inside and outside the gate. Army CID would especially like to thank the following agencies for their teamwork and professionalism during this very difficult time: the FBI, the ATF, Texas Department of Public Safety, and the Texas Rangers, the Fort Hood Directorate of Emergency Services, the Killeen Police Department, the Harker Heights Police Department, Coryell County Sheriff's Office, and the Temple Police Department. We'd also like to thank Lieutenant General Milley and his staff for their tremendous support and cooperation while we are conducting our investigation. Let me assure you, we are fully committed to this investigation. That concludes my update today. We are not releasing any further details. I appreciate your patience and understanding during this very, very difficult time. Thank you.
We'll take just a few questions, and then we're not going to do a press conference tomorrow, Saturday, nor Sunday. We will do one again on Monday. We will not do one Tuesday. Memorial service is Wednesday, and the next one after that will be Thursday. We will not do a press conference at the memorial service. There may be some visitors show up. There may be some opportunities to do press availability at that time, but there'll be no press conference. The next press conference is Monday. The one after that will be Thursday. At this time, I'll be happy to entertain some questions.
General, do you know what
Let me start over here. Go ahead,
How many shots were fired, do you know?
Mr. Gray.
That's part of the investigation. We're looking at that.
Is his wife cooperating with you, and when has she been able to shed any light
I'm not
on
going to
the
reveal
photos?
that information right now. That's part of the investigation.
General, do you have any sense-
We don't discuss witnesses, victims, that type of thing.
General or Mr. Gray, do you have any sense what precipitated this argument?
That's part of the ongoing investigation.
Were any of those soldiers victims of the shooting?
Yes, they were.
Mr. Gray, on that note, there have been reports that Specialist Lopez came in for a leave form and was denied that. Is that something you can confirm?
Again, that's all part of the ongoing investigation, and when we can, we'll be able to release that information. But we want to make sure that we have all the facts correct. Everyone's rights are protected, and we get it right the first time. So our investigation continues.
General, sir, yesterday you said no soldiers were specifically targeted, and now we're told that some of the victims were people that he was having engaged in this altercation with. Is there any revision of what you told us yesterday?
No, there's no, and I'll let Mr. Gray override me here in a second, but there's no indication of previous specific targeting of a specific individual. So that remains true.
Even the people he was involved in that verbal altercation?
That's right.
Can you talk about
And
what
that's how, as you know, that's how an investigation progresses. We uncover new information as we continue to investigate. So that's why I confirmed that.
Can you talk in general about what the altercation was about?
No, I cannot. It's part of the ongoing investigation.
Just as a follow-up, just so that we're clear, you said that some of the people who were involved in the verbal altercation were victims,
Correct.
but you're saying they weren't targets. So there seems to be a conflict there. Can you explain?
Yeah, there was no premeditated targeting of an individual in the sense of walking in to specifically target a specific individual. There's no indication of that. There was an argument. It escalated, the details of which will be discussed at a later point once the investigation is completed.
It escalated and then the shooting.
That's correct.
Were any individuals fatally wounded?
I'm sorry.
Were any of those soldiers involved in the altercation fatally wounded?
I'd have to check that fact for you.
Did Lopez have a meeting with his superiors about the leave of absence issue on Wednesday?
I don't know that. I don't think you know that.
Right.
I don't know that for certain. No, I don't know that one.
And again, what I gave you in my briefing, that's all we're releasing at this point. We're not getting into the details, obviously, for the ongoing investigation. I'm not getting any more specifics. So if you have specific questions about the investigation, I'm going to have to come back to. We're not answering that at
In
this point.
regards to policy and procedure that you are now ordering as a result of this in regards to what could have prevented this, a lot of talk of having extra personnel with sidearms on the side in every building.
We have a set of standard operating procedures. Most all the military installations throughout the Army have a set of policies and regulations that we all follow. We have random access measures, security, locations that require extra security, et cetera, et cetera. We are reviewing all of those, and I have not issued specific instructions to make any changes to those at this time. We have adjusted some of the, within the existing SOPs, we have increased some of the force protection measures here. That temporary in nature, as you saw, we shut down the base. There are, as you see, some additional MPs out, etc. But an overall change in policy, no, have not done that yet.
Is one of the crime scenes the chaplain service?
I'm not getting into the details. I gave you as much as I can on the crime scene and where it is and the location.
Can you tell us how many of the victims?
Suspect's first name, Ivan or Ivan? Do you know? The suspect's first
I-V-A-N.
name. No, but the pronunciation of it, I've heard different.
General, can you tell us the scenario
were involved in the
Excuse me?
How many of the victims were involved in the altercation? Do you know the number?
Again, I'm not getting into numbers or details. Like I said in my briefing, I'm not getting into specifics of a timeline. Not getting into specifics of the timeline step by step at this point. We've got an ongoing criminal investigation, so I'm not going to be able to answer those questions. I'm sorry.
General, yesterday you talked a little bit about the heroics of the chaplain. Can you talk a little bit more about what people there did, how they reacted? One of the things we don't know is what really happened there, step by step, or
Right.
what some of the people who decided
Well, as
to take
Mr. Gray
action
said, we're not going to be releasing step by step the entire event. It's all part of the investigation. To my knowledge at this point, and we're still early, but there are several cases of soldier performance that clearly indicated heroic action, in my view, as a commander, in my judgment. One of whom was a chaplain. I won't be releasing any of these names, but one of whom was a chaplain who it looks to me as if he probably saved some lives and did so and suffered some injuries in the process. Second, I think performed exceptionally well as the female sergeant. There's another soldier. That's correct, military police sergeant. There's another soldier who, although wounded, had the presence of mind in a very difficult situation to throw another soldier into a room, close the door, and he dialed 911. And then there's a third or a second soldier who also dialed 911 despite severe wounds. So there's several cases, and there's more out there. We'll uncover those in some detail, and I, as a commander, will take a hard look at all of those, and I plan on recognizing some of those for heroic action over the weeks to come.
General, is there further information on the self-reported traumatic injury that you were talking about the past couple of days? Anything else to say about that?
No, nothing to add from what I previously said. It's the medical investigators are reviewing all the medical records in very, very great detail. So they'll at an appropriate time, we'll be discussing that at the conclusion of the investigation, but that's going to take some time. But nothing to add to what I've already said.
General, we were told that
Run through that scenario again for us of how this all kind of went down within the limitations that you can give us. And was it kind of fluid, or was there long breaks in between?
It was fluid. It lasted just a matter of minutes. It was a very fluid situation, both in buildings, outside of buildings. Just a small number of minutes. It was not a very long time at all. And again, the military police responded within 4 minutes, and we're on scene.
Was the argument itself brief?
I'm not getting into the details of that.
Was there a physical altercation before the shooting between those individuals?
I said a verbal altercation.
But no physical?
Verbal altercation.
And
General,
he
we were
shot
told
from
that
inside
Sergeant-
his vehicle? He was inside his vehicle when he did some of the shooting that you had mentioned?
Again, I'm sorry. I know y'all understand. I'm not getting into the details, and that's why I said in my press briefing, I can't get into details while we have an ongoing investigation. So, as we go forward, when I said that the military police officer, he approached the military police officer. They were obviously on foot, but that's all I'm going to be able to say about it.
No, I meant that Lopez was shooting from
He
inside
was
his vehicle.
he was shooting from his vehicle as he was moving, as I said in my briefing. Yes.
General, we were
We'll
told
take
that Sergeant
we'll take two more non-investigation related questions if you want.
General, we were told that
Secretary Hagel said there's some troubling gaps in DOD to protect its own employee and members. Do you think the shooting is kind of reflection on that?
I apologize, but I'm not sure I understood the question.
I mean, Secretary Hagel said there are some troubling gaps in DOD to protect its own member and employees. Do you think the shooting is kind of reflection on that?
We don't know yet. We're conducting as part of the investigation. We'll determine where there are gaps and seams. If there were any, we'll take corrective action.
General, we were told that Sergeant Ferguson may have physically held a door where there was a room full of soldiers. Can you talk about that, what the facts are on that?
Yeah, those are the type of facts I was talking about with the heroism sort of thing and protecting other soldiers. We're gathering all that information through the unit chains of command to find out precisely what each soldier did, where they were, what they did, etc. Specifically, his actions, I'm not going to comment right now on that because I want to see the whole thing put together, and that'll take a few days.
General, you've said that his medical conditions are now not believed to be a cause of what happened.
That's not what I said.
I'm sorry.
That's not what I said. What I said was the underlying medical conditions are not believed to be the precipitating event to the actual shooting. There's a difference. The precipitating event we think was probably this argument, some sort of argument that occurred. Different.
Which is to say that the mental health issues are still being looked at.
They'll be fully and comprehensively investigated to the nth degree, absolutely.
Did Lopez work directly under either of the two sergeants who were fatally wounded?
No. Okay, last question.
You said that the argument, is it fair to say then that you think that it was a spontaneous event, that he got into a verbal altercation and then it turned into a shooting? When you say not premeditated, it sounds like you're saying that it was a spontaneous thing and all of a sudden takes out starts.
Yeah, I don't want to put the characterization, the adjectives on there. At this time, we'll wait till the investigation comes back with what they believe to be the case. Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
The spelling of Mr. Gray's name? Spelling your name?
Mr. Gray's name is Grey. Chris Gray.
CHR?